So you're working with Mad Cave Studios, of course. We got
Yep.
we got the first issue right over here in Nottingham, of course. We get that.
Love it. Nice.
Nice, yeah. Love the artwork, man. It's, excellent. I haven't had a chance to actually read it. I only got it 2 days ago, but been checking the artwork since we've kind of been interested in getting you on the pod here, kind of thing. So, quick question on that: what's your influence in terms of your art? Because your art style is I really enjoy it. I'll put it that way.
Well, first of all, I'll say this to my good friend David Hazan, the writer of Nottingham. I always say, you don't need to read it. Just look at the pictures. It's comic books.
I think that's how everyone gets first, initiated with comic books, and that's what kind of draws your eye to it first, right? Is the pictures. So
Well, and that, jokes aside, that's the beauty of comic books, right? I mean, you hope that it sort of draws you in visually, and then you get in and dig the story. So you're going to love it when you get into it, because David, he's a hell of a writer, and it's a trilogy now. So where the story starts and where it goes, it's crazy, very unexpected. So to answer your question, my art style is I spent a lot of years trying to be other artists, which I think most artists do, right? You have your influences, and you're first I wanted to be Todd McFarlane, and then I wanted to be, Mike Mignola. Then I wanted to be Sean Gordon Murphy. And then I wanted to be Jason Sean Alexander. And then at some point along the way, you realize you can't do any of that. You start to embrace what's coming out of you. And if you look at my stuff, I think there's pieces of my favorite artists in there. I love lots of heavy blacks. I like a lot of inks and that kind of stuff. But I started to just kind of relax and let it just sort of happen. And you realize I can't do Mike Mignola stuff. He sees things a certain way that my brain doesn't work that way. So I have elements of all of that stuff. And then I just, you'll find that the art changes in Nottingham quite a bit between the first series and the second series. And you start to see my growth kind of, and less growth and more just me getting comfortable with who I am. Starting on the end of book 4, start of book 5, I started to hit this rhythm where I was starting to kind of feel I don't know if any artist ever looks at their art and says, oh, I really like this, but I started to feel I'm getting comfortable here. Yeah. I see a style emerging that's kind of my own thing. And so I just kind of been running with that ever since. So like I said, I'm not a big fan for myself. I'm not big on really clean art. I like it messy, sketchy, kind of, dirty sort of gritty stuff. So it kind of happens naturally like that for me. So that's where my art kind of comes from. It's all of my heroes put together, and then just sort of let my own kind of internal compass take over as well.
I think, that's the evolution of human behavior. I think we always look to something that we're inspired by, and then we kind of develop our own style from that, whether it be music or art or whatever. So it's definitely, I like the grittier stuff too, right? That's more my style too. I like that. It's more visually pleasing. It's more it definitely draws you in, and definitely is more of a kind of a, the it factor and whatnot.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. And it is I think that's the thing about art, right? You could sit around all day debating about whose art is better or who you like better, but it's the beauty of art. It's personal preference. What do you like? You open up a book and it just speaks to you, and that's, I love that. I love, I discover new artists all the time where, you look at it and you're just this is just hitting me somehow, and maybe it's an artist that has a style that traditionally I don't usually like, but it starts to speak to you. So I love that. Yeah, I love it. It's very subjective, obviously, but man, that gritty stuff has always been, I'm a rock and roller. So
it reminds me a lot
dark
of
and gritty is how it just kind of comes out that way.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of 90s, like early mid '90s kind of Marvel comics and that kind of thing. Like when like I guess McFarlane I think like was kind of I guess drawn for them too in that
Spawn
case.
Got that Spawn style
thing, you know, like all that's like I was really big in the McFarlane back in the old day kind of thing. First, when he came like on his own, like I mean I didn't even really know who he was when he was kind of doing Marvel and stuff like that. But when he came out with Spawn, of course, now I was like, oh shit, now we're onto it. Like that was cool, right? So that's what it kind of reminds me of. It's got that kind of like you say, thick lines, a little messy. Looks like you just kind of put the paintbrush down kind of thing versus trying to draw that perfect line or whatever. It's beautiful.
Oh, exactly. And, you know, it's crazy when you think of that era and I think of my influences. I mean, you know, I was when Spawn was coming out and all that, those kind of books were coming out, the Image era, I was like 12, 13. And then that's also when like Soundgarden and Alice in Chains were hitting. So there was that early 90s. Somehow it all felt kind of the same to me, right? Like, you know, it was this.
Damn it.
I love it.
It wasn't clean. It was like, so I put that together not long ago where I was like, oh, my tastes in art and my tastes in music were really formed at that time, right? And honestly, they have very similar elements, the music of that era and the art styles of that era, like totally.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of come from, I mean, like most people before us, I guess, technically, but we kind of come from that era of, you know, CDs, album art, you know, like all that stuff plays in, whether you like it or not. It flows into your artistic subconsciousness or whatever, right? Yeah, no, you can definitely see. I mean, like you say, like Alice in Chains, like especially like I mean with Lane in there, that era versus new era, like those album covers are like definitive. They're definitive. Like they're like a Zeppelin album or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like seeing Houses of Holy or whatever. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It's as the great Robert Plant did say. Everybody nicks it.
I mean, that's what happens when you have something great. I mean, it's, you know, you see that in the eras of music, the eras of comic art and writing is like this thing hits, then everybody wants to be that. And I mean, rightfully so. If something's in the world of commercial art, if something's happening and people are getting paid, everybody wants to get paid. Exactly. I mean, it's like a very, you know, music, art, it's tough. So you can't blame people either to try, you know, they want to jump on and do something that's actually going to pay their bills. So,
I mean, there's a reason there's a top 40 radio stations, you know, all that kind of stuff exists still. People like that.
Exactly.
Familiarity is, you know, it's comforting or whatever. Right? So
yeah, absolutely.
People like it.
Absolutely.
So speaking of, we're going down this road, like, so early on in, like, say we'll stick to the kind of the drawing aspect of it for now, but like who or what time frame did you start getting into drawing? Like, when was that kind of like, or was it always around kind of like, it's one of those things?
For me, it was always around. Like I was man, you interview like 1,000 comic artists and you get 1,000 people saying I was the kid in the back of the class drawing, you know, drawing and doodling and stuff. Cause that's just always the way my mind worked. So I'd always been drawing as a kid. And then I think around that era that we're talking about, I started to think like, oh man, is this something I could do? Like, you know, and still in that era, you know, you're emailing, you're mailing your submissions off to like DC and Marvel and stuff. Yeah. And so very different kind of era, but I was doing that for a little while in my late teens and thinking like I wanted to do comic books. I wanted to draw comic books. And then I was also doing some acting at the time and started getting into music. And then obviously, you know, I've been in a band called One Bad Son now for 20 years.
Oh yeah.
So music definitely kind of took over everything, but I always knew that art would be there for me. Like the one thing about being a rock and roller is, you know, if you're Mick Jagger, it's cool to do rock and roll when you're like 70 or 80, because you've been doing it since you were 18. But if you're like going to try to be like a young rock and roller starting off in your 50s, it's a little tougher, right? So I thought to myself, if we're going to do music, let's go now. You know what I mean? I was probably about, I think I was early 20s when OBS started, and it was kind of like, this is the time to chase this dream. Like, let's do it. Let's do it as hard as we can, because it is like, you know, music is, I don't know, with the touring and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's very, it's nice to do in your 20s. It gets a bit tougher as you get into your 30s and 40s. But so anyway, I knew that somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought like, no matter how music goes, I'll be getting into comics at some point. I just knew, because, you know, you can draw pictures until you're 150 years old. No one can see your face. They see your artwork, right? It's beauty. It's beautiful thing about it. But anyway, so I'd been drawing the whole time, and then I really got serious in about 2018, where I kind of hit this point of realizing, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna have to like put some work into it, right? Like learning storytelling and learning all the things that go beyond just drawing, you know, Batman pinups and stuff like that. So yeah, so at that point I put a lot of work into it. I entered the Mad Cave Studios. They do a talent search every year. Oh, cool. And my beautiful and talented wife totally encouraged me. She's like, get your shit in there. Nice. And because we were actually when I found the contest, there was only, I think, maybe 2 weeks left before it shut down, and we were getting married in that 2 weeks. But she was like, you got to enter this thing. Oh man. And nice. Yeah, it's the best. I mean, that's the kind of support
that's you want in your life. Awesome. That's exactly it, man. You need sometimes you need that significant other to kind of push you in the direction sometimes.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So anyway, long story short, I entered the contest. I won, and then that's how I landed Nottingham. So the path in was, I won't say it was easy, because I kind of I put my 20 years of music and art together. It's like, it's been a long road of learning the ropes with art. And honestly, music and my experiences in music have helped a lot with my comic career. Like, I take criticism easy. You know, I don't, people saying no to me means very little. You know, you just put your head down and you go. Like, yeah. I have been torn down many times in my music career, and it's like, you know, you want to shit on my art? That's fine. Go look at somebody else's art. I don't care. You know what I mean? It's built up that thick skin for me. So, yeah.
No, yeah, there's something for everyone. But what I wanted to know is, like, how did you feel like you have had a hard time balancing both? And like, did you have to put, you know, the art on the back burner once you wanted to get OBS kind of, you know what I mean, get going? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely. Like I said, I really put my graphic art on the back burner, and acting, honestly, because I love acting. I don't know that would ever be my main vocation, but I love it. But, you know, we were touring so much that there wasn't time to learn anything else, you know, and not making much money or anything either. So you're just, you know, it's paycheck to paycheck for the life of a Canadian rock and roller. But yeah, so art went on the back burner, and then obviously 2020 happened. And when I started drawing Nottingham was the end of 2019 into 2020. So the pandemic hit. So, course, yeah. I mean, sometimes things happen, you know, even a terrible time like that. For me, it was like, okay, well, I can't do music. There's, you know, no touring to be done. So I was able to just like sit down and really, really focus. Dude, crack that thing loud. Put it in the mic. Come on now. You don't have to hide it.
Irish crickets.
Irish crickets up in here.
Yeah, come on.
Sorry, try not to interrupt the story.
No, it's all
I don't want to be rude, man.
But no, so no, it's all good. Hey, it's not the first time it's happened. You can't have all those rock and metal posters behind you and be worried about it.
We indulge in a beverage or two around here.
Hey, that's the way it is, right?
No, go to it. Anyway, I honed a lot of my skills during the pandemic, and it was a time to, you know, both really buckle down and hit my deadlines and all that. But I had lots of time to really work on my craft. So
nice. Did you have any? You haven't done any formal like art training, I get drawing, train, whatever, have you?
No, just the school of hard knocks, man.
Nice, man. The best one.
That's the best way.
That's the only way to learn. But I feel like that's the path forward if you want to create your own style. And not to take away from people that go to school. I went to school for music and stuff like that. But it's not to take away from it. But I find like the path forward most of the time is figuring it yourself.
Well, yeah, and you know, it's funny because I'm glad you brought that up, because it's kind of a strange thing surrounding that. Like there's people that I know, they're very stuck up, and if you haven't done school, they're like, oh, you don't belong here, you know. And I heard that in music too. But then you get these other people that are stuck up this other way, where they're like, oh, like I learned the hard way, so somehow that gives me all this extra street cred. And it's like, the truth is, if you can draw and people buy your art, they buy your books, if they buy your music and come to your shows, the path that got you there matters very little. Doesn't matter.
100%.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think they can
'cause
teach
I know-
passion like that, right? That's something you were born with, and something you did, like you were in grade school, like that. You can't teach that.
Absolutely. And, like, no, I didn't get any formal training, but I know artists that have had formal training, and they've developed a great style because they've kind of, they've come out of it and then really dug into, finding themselves. And of course, there's a danger, I think, sometimes, not just with school, like, there's programs like the Kubert School of Art and that sort of thing. And I think that if there's any kind of danger in it, is that, like, you don't want to come out just looking like everybody else. And I find that in comics, just like music, where it's kind of, we're going to push you to what's selling. We're going to, if you want to draw Marvel and DC, it's got to be house style. And that's maybe true in some cases if you want to do DC house style, but it's like, I'd rather draw Batman with my style than anybody else's if they hire me. And if they don't, well, I'd still rather be myself. Same with music. The band and I, we always said, I'd rather fail as myself than succeed trying to sound like somebody else. Right.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
I know, and we do want to get on the OBS train here, because I mean, it's been 20 years. You and Kurt have been just grinding,
That's
just
right,
doing it together.
Banging
Like,
away.
it's so awesome to see, like, two guys who just follow their passions and do what they want to do. And you've kind of done that through every kind of avenue of your whole life. It's inspiring, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
well, yeah, I appreciate it. And, it's funny because it's always just the way I've approached life. Like, if I want to do something and I really I'm going to do it until I get it. You know what I mean? It's like, we didn't want to just start a band and kind of screw around at home and, have a little following. We were like, we want to be as big as we can get. We want to live the dream as big as we can get. And we've had crazy experiences, like playing arenas and opening for the Rolling Stones. And same with comics, right? Like, I just have, I've always had something inside that was just like, I don't want to do, I don't want to do the smallest version of my big idea. Like, I want to do it to the max. Right. So now, in comics, so I'm, Nottingham's been amazing. The third volume, there's one more issue coming out, I think August 28th. The big finale comes out. So, and right now I'm doing my own series. So now I'm writing, drawing, and coloring this series, which,
Nice.
Privately, I took my wife aside and I said, I've officially bit off more than I can chew.
Yeah, sounds like a lot.
That's how you learn, man. That's how you learn.
Yeah, man. No, good. Like, good. And I mean, good for you. Like, I mean, that's wicked. Like, I mean, that's technically your own. Now it's your own baby kind of thing. It isn't, you don't necessarily have to have somebody else's input, or there's not a guy kind of stand there saying, well, it's nice, but if kind of thing. Right. So that's sweet. And I mean, there's business in the art, I'm sure, but you know what I mean? It's more you than anything.
Yeah. Totally. And, it's kind of neat because it is like, I've done some solo stuff in music, and it's kind of similar in that, like, when I started doing a little bit of solo work, I realized how much I value the band and how cool it was to have a group of people around to bounce ideas off of. And honestly, to kind of go through the experience with is cool. And, so comics is really the same. And honestly, like, I've been really loving doing this series. Like, I have had so much fun writing and drawing Prairie Gods. But of course, like, I'm going to go I want to draw, like, I'll draw more of David's stories. I'll draw anybody's stories. So it's cool to do it all, right? Like, you can pop out, do your own thing, just your own independent voice. Like you said, it's nice to just see something in your head and put it on paper. Yeah. But it is also cool to draw somebody else's story, put your spin on somebody else's ideas. So, it's been a real gift to get the opportunity Mad Cave has given me to do the series on my own and trust me with it. And, I hope people dig it. And if they don't, I've been loving it, I'll tell you.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about. And some of it, you have to love what you're doing. So, I mean, regardless of anybody's opinion, you still have to like it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. No, and it's wicked. It's awesome. I love watching people do their own thing, their own way. It's cool. And I mean, like, even with the band, it seems like same idea. I mean, some tinkering and whatever, different labels and whatnot along the way and stuff, but it was, it was still your, it was all yours kind of thing. You guys kind of did it
Yeah.
your way, and yeah, it was cool.
We've always followed our own compass, and we've always tried a lot of different things. And again, it's like you're in the world of commercial art, so you want people to buy your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But that can get immediately dangerous because you can start to almost, it's like, the best way I can put it is like, you want to listen to people. You don't want to be selfish and not listen to people who have done really good things in your field. But on the other hand, if those voices get louder than yours, it can also get very dangerous because you can totally lose yourself. And it can absolutely kill your passion for the thing you're doing.
Has that come into play with changing record labels? Like, I know, like, you were on 604 and now you're on
Known Accomplice.
Known Accomplice, yes. I was going to say it.
Yep.
Yeah. But how was that change for you? Like, was it easy kind of leaving there and kind of switching labels? Because I know that's a big thing for a lot of bands,
Yeah, you know what, man? It was pretty smooth. Like, honestly, we did 3 records with 604 and they were really successful. And we had our issues with them, and I think they didn't exactly know what to do with us at times. We were the only rock band on the label, and we were continually successful, even though they didn't really know why. So that was a bit of a pain to continue to fight. But by the end of Made in the Name of Rock and Roll, it was just time, like, probably for them and for us. It was like there was no animosity. We parted ways, and it was kind of like, yeah, it's good for everybody. And honestly, Kurt and I, when Hicks left the band and it was just him and I, even before Tara and Cooley joined the band, we were like, do we need a label? Like, kind of, what do we want to do? Like, he's a full-time entertainment lawyer. I'm doing comics now full-time. So the band is definitely like, kind of, we're definitely not as busy as we used to be, and really can't be. Like, we used to tour 6 months out of the year. Yeah. Right. So, and we knew that going forward, we wouldn't be quite as active. And it was kind of like, well, we could do it ourselves, but Known Accomplice came around, and they've been awesome. And it's nice to have a bit of clout and a little bit of help to get out. And they've really helped us, especially on streaming and stuff. Like, our numbers have gone pretty crazy, since we joined them. And so, nice. Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been really smooth. And honestly, just like anything, like going back to doing my own books and drawing books for other people, it's the same sort of deal. It's nice to work with new people and get some new energy. And yeah, so no, it's been pretty smooth going over to Known Accomplice.
That's awesome. I know, and you mentioned Tara McLeod, formerly of Kitty. And
not even formally.
No, I guess just, not even.
They put out the new record. Oh yeah.
My bad. Sorry, Tara, if you ever watch this. Probably not. But
she's watching, and she will judge, and she will. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's okay.
But she's the best. And Cooley, Ryan Cooley, he actually follows our podcast as well on Instagram. So shout out to Ryan.
Amazing.
Yeah, wicked.
Yeah.
Cooley,
how's that dynamic been to have those new members, and how's that given you like like new energy usually as new members do?
Exactly what you just said. The energy's been amazing. Like, they're both phenomenal people. Like, and I mean it. They're amazing human beings and just amazing artists. Tara and I have done a lot of writing together now since we met. So, like, for OBS and for other projects. So it's been a real gift to have them in the band and in our lives, and kind of cool too, because I regret no eras of OBS. Like, honestly, Granny was amazing. He was our longtime bass player, right? He was in the band for a decade. Hicks was there from the start, and he left just at the beginning of the pandemic. And it's like, again, no animosity there. It was time they were ready to do something else, and we weren't ready to stop playing. And so it was like, it was fine. And now with Tara and Cooley, it's been great because they're, again, new energy, right? Like, and I'm not shitting on the old energy. It's just, It's different, right? So
just new.
It was cool when we started to go in and write because, when you've been writing with the same people for, at that point, like 18 years, you fall into kind of how that is. So it opened up some new neural pathways, I think, for us to have some new people in there, new ideas and new ways of working. So yeah, it's honestly been phenomenal having them in the band for sure. And the shows they've been wild.
Nice.
So our fans, dude, OBS fans are crazy.
Awesome.
And we didn't lose one when things shifted. And yeah, it's been awesome. Even though we're playing less now, they show up, and we've been playing sold out shows, and it's been incredible.
Well, here in Grand Prairie, we're dying to see you back here
For sure.
real soon.
Well, we
we're
might have
we're
some
in
good
Grand
news
Prairie,
for
so
you coming up.
oh, maybe a little inside scoop, eh? A little
snap. Oh, snap.
little
All I'll
inside.
say is we might have some very good news for you coming up,
Awesome.
because our new EP comes out. I think we're shooting for sometime in September,
Oh,
so
sick.
we're gonna get a few shows around that. So we'll see if you get on the list. You know, we love Grand Prairie.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
we've been coming there
Oh,
since
yeah.
the beginning. So.
Absolutely.
I've heard
yeah.
a few tales on the pod. I've dug through the whole 10 episodes or whatever of the pod now. Got them in the week,
Okay.
so I heard
Oh,
all
nice.
about the Grand Prairie story and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Grand Prairie's always been a
funny.
big
It's
supporter
funny,
of OBS, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
Grand
No,
Prairie supports
absolutely.
the Canadians good. I will say that. Like, I mean, we're not even from here technically. Like, we're from Newfoundland, but since we've been here, I
Okay.
mean, it's very like the support is awesome here. That's one thing I will say.
Yep.
Yeah, really cool.
Oh, that's cool. So you guys aren't actually from GP?
No, we're from Newfoundland.
I've lived here for 20 years
Yeah.
now, so
Oh, okay.
I'm here for like 11 or whatever it is at this point. So, but I've lived all
Awesome.
over Canada. Well, not all over, but most of the East Coast, and then over here now. But
Oh, sweet.
we have our roots here now.
yeah, we're definitely here now.
Oh, that's amazing. No, honestly, Grand Prairie's been great. Like they have always supported us. The people there have been amazing. They sold out our last show, and honestly, we were unsure about the last show that we did last year because we hadn't played there. I don't think we played Grand Prairie since probably like 2017, maybe.
Oh, okay.
It was a pretty good chunk of time, and man, they showed up. It was rowdy.
No.
Everything we come to expect from GP. So
Nice.
Well, you still, I mean, there's regular airplay on Rock 97,
Oh yeah,
right?
for
So,
sure. Yeah, for sure.
you know, shout out to Ryan G from 97.7 Rock, and yeah, he's a big supporter as well.
He is,
so
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We
Yeah, I
can't-
heard a new
wait, if
single
they
of,
support you, are they sponsoring the podcast? Come on.
Not
Nope.
yet,
No,
but
not
you
yet.
definitely could.
Well, we'll work on that.
No, it's just our lonesome selves, man. We don't have anybody helping us at all. We just do this on our own.
this is
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so
that's
just-
awesome. I mean, hey, that's if you love something, you got the passion for it. It's cool. Like,
it's fun, man.
And
Super fun.
honestly, I've done a lot of podcasts, and I got to say that you got probably like one of the coolest setups there.
Nice.
Hey,
like
nice, I
the
like it.
room you got there is, yeah, it's awesome.
Appreciate
Cool.
it. Yeah,
Appreciate
everything
that.
is it's a little bit of us. Every you know, from bands that we've seen and movies we love, and you know, comic books we love and stuff like that.
A
And
few pictures of
yeah,
being
everything.
a kid and yeah, all kinds of stuff.
It's,
Just stuff we like.
It's like
That's cool. And we were, I mean, the comic book culture in Grand Prairie is actually pretty cool too.
It is, yeah.
I was surprised, you know, how good it actually was. So, yeah. So do you guys have a comic shop there?
Yeah.
Like
there's-
maybe I have to hit, if we come back, maybe I got to hit it up.
If you're back, I would check out Strange Ideas for sure.
Okay.
There's a record store right next door, or kind of right next door to it as well now. Manic Records is kind of just up the mini mall from them or whatever. But they're kind of like, I think, the hub, I believe, here. Like, not a supporter of local things, but if I get comics, I usually order them. Like, I ordered
Well,
yours
I mean-
from your website, or you know what I mean. Like, try to get it from
Yep.
as direct as I can, but.
Yep,
Yeah,
no,
Strange
I get
Ideas is an excellent spot, and like I said, then you got a little record store next door. So if you're in the vinyl, you can go check that out. Manic is over there.
Love it.
And he's got a really nice. It's a little tiny shop, probably like 3 lengths of this room, but it's packed with good vinyl.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's the spot to hit up for comics here for sure.
it's a good it's a
Okay,
really
I'll-
good pop
take note.
culture city, right? I mean, you've done the G pop here with
I was going to say
Blaine as well?
G-pop.
Yeah.
I was there last year. So,
Yeah.
and that was really, really cool. I mean, it takes a lot to put those things together, and it was a good time.
Yeah. So yeah, like we partook in that one this year, like the newest one that came out. So we'll be doing it again in October. So
Yeah, we did.
Awesome.
We actually did a little bit of a live podcast there with some people who were there, which was
local
really
artists
cool.
and stuff,
So
yeah. Couple like a local comic book guy, right? So Mr. Mike Moman. Shout out
Oh,
to him.
sweet.
Yeah, so we
Awesome.
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything. Yeah, so it was cool. Yeah, and I mean, like, it seems like we just did Grand Con too, which is the bigger kind of con here or whatever. But that was busy. Like that was real busy.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, there was
Okay.
a lot of people show up to that, and then we doing. I guess it'll be the 4th G-pop in October is coming. So like that'll be bigger again or whatever. You know what I mean? It'll be a little bigger
Yep.
or a little better kind of thing than the last one. And yeah, it's pretty healthy, man. Like I will say that. Like I came from St. John's before here, and like it's a pretty. At the time, I don't know what it's like now, but 10 years ago, it was a really big deal there. There was a
Yep.
lot of shops and stuff, so it's nice to see it go. Like, I love comics and all that nerdy stuff.
Dude, what's not to love? What's not to love? You
Oh
know?
yeah, man! Like video games and comic books and
our-
movies. Like what are we talking
This is
about?
our nerdy little '90s little tribute here.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I love it.
I got
love it.
speaking of '90s nerdy. I asked you about This Aggression Will Not Stand, man.
Oh,
Are you
yeah,
a big fan of Big Lebowski or?
Love Big Lebowski.
Hey.
Come
nice,
on.
nice.
Love the dude.
Ah,
Yeah.
nice. I love it.
So you must have been watching that a whole lot back in the old house together, right?
Oh yeah, we all four of us, like we love that we love that movie, and I like it's one of Kurt's favorite ones. So with that our very first, man, that's going all the way back. I think that record came out in like 2005. So it's like, yeah, we were watching a lot of Big Lebowski, and we just thought, yeah, that works for an album title, sure.
It's so funny.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you too. So, listen to the pod and stuff like that. Like you guys seem to spend a lot of time on like song craft.
Yep.
So what in your mind? And I mean, it doesn't have to be like what is your artistic vision of like a hit rock song? Like what are like the few elements or whatever that go into what you feel like makes a hit rock song?
That's a great question.
I'm
I've never
curious.
been
I'm
asked that
curious, man.
before.
You guys
Go,
spend a lot of
baby.
time talking about it. I was curious about this.
Well, you know what? First of all, thanks for listening to the One Bad Son
One
podcast.
Bad Pod,
Appreciate
baby.
that.
Put it out there, yeah.
Listen, folks.
It's-
Listen to One Bad Pod.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Follow
Uh,
on Spotify, baby.
Love it. Thank you so much for the plug. It's been cool going back over 20 years with KD, and like as we talk, you're like, holy shit, I forgot about these things you just forget about.
Yeah, man.
But no, that's a great question. So I think we said this on the podcast. One of our producers, the producer who did the Red album with Retribution Blues and Scarecrows, Danny Craig he said, I can't predict, or he said, like I can't predict hits, but I can. No, sorry, I'm fucking this line up. I can't pick hits. I can pick singles. In other words, you know what goes in, like when you hear a song and you're like, oh, that's a single.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. Yeah.
in order for it to become a hit, I mean, that's so much of that is just, I don't know. So, you know, some songs just have some magic in them as far as becoming like a hit, right? And because, you know,
You can almost sense it coming as you're doing it. Like it's not even you driving the vehicle anymore. Almost, it's kind of an interesting thing.
exactly. And, you know, so to answer your question directly, I think like there's like real world stuff. Like there's the world we live in stuff, which is like, you need a good hook, you know, you need it to be catchy. You need it to like stick in your ear. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to follow the exact formula all the time. And I think Kurt and I talk about that on the podcast, that a lot of music can be very formulaic, right? It's like whatever, you know, this song was a hit, so let's just use the exact formula and make it, and that can work for some people. But like, so yeah, you need hooks, you need good melodies. Honestly, if you have a really good melody with some good hooks and a killer beat, I mean, you know, you don't even need a great riff, you know, like the melody, people really feel drums, and they really, and I'm not shitting on guitar players. I mean, obviously, come on, it's like rock and roll.
They definitely
Every one of
they're
our
supposed
songs
to be in
is
there.
based on a killer riff. But when I say melody,
I know what
actually,
I know
I'll
what you're saying.
clarify, is it's not just vocal melody, right? Like if you listen to a Slash solo, holy shit, you can sing those solos, right? Like hooky melodies. So, you know, if your music is melodic, if you've got a great vocal melody and hook and a killer beat, I mean, people get into that, right? And then so the other part of it that is less easy to quantify, honestly, I think that if you're doing what you do, and this goes for comic books as well, like if you're doing what you do with like actual passion, like you give a shit, you're really putting yourself into it. Like I really believe that people feel that, you know. I think that especially now, with as much social media as we've been exposed to over the last decade, people smell bullshit. They know when something is just, you know, I mean, that's why, like, honestly, with everything going on with AI right now, it's
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well. That was
well,
going to
we'll
be my
get
next
into
question.
that.
That was
We'll
going to be
get
my
into
next
that.
question.
But I mean, you know, if people like to connect on a human level, and I think, you know, obviously, if you've got a hooky song and it's got a lot of those elements that make a hit song great, But I mean, you just feel it when, you know, I remember when Jagged Little Pill came out.
Oh yeah.
And you were just like, holy shit, Alanis is like, she's not fooling me. She's not bullshitting.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that she's got something to say. Like, you really, besides like, yeah, break the songs down. They're well written and
Yes,
really
for sure.
hooky and great music, but it's like, holy shit, this person is like giving it to me. And I think when you have that connection, man, then you got a hit song.
Nice. I like it.
It's gotta be real, right? I mean, it's gotta be. We've talked about this before, but like on our own solo pods and stuff.
sure,
I mean,
yeah.
like you can't bullshit someone, right? And it's not gonna last if it doesn't make a connection, a personal connection with someone.
And there's like this, I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's everybody does the same. I don't know how to explain it, but there's like this intangible thing. Like it just feels different, especially if you're creating it. Sometimes, like even if you don't necessarily let it out in the world, like you can tell when something's good, and you can definitely tell when something came out of nothing, if you will. Like I feel like very much so that ideas are out there for everybody, but you have to tune in to get it, kind of thing, right? You're just not on the station, kind of thing. It's for everybody, but you're the one who pulls it in, kind of thing, or whatever, right? So like there's something to be said for that as well, and I think other people feel that because it's like, this came from thin air, kind of thing, like when you stop and think about it. And it doesn't sound like the last thing I heard on the radio or in my playlist. There's these weird moments like that. I feel like, I mean, Zeppelin is a very much that moment, you know, the Beatles had that moment, all these, you know, classic bands, but people can feel that, and that's what transcribes the ages, kind of thing. It goes on and on and on, kind of thing, right? That's why we're still hearing your guys' songs 20 years later on the radio daily, right? It's there's something about it that just, you know, breaks through, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, if you're fortunate enough to write something or draw something that connects with people and they love it, I mean, that's really like, you got to create for yourself. Like you really do. You cannot, we in the band fully admit that there was a time where we were getting stuck on like, what should we write? Like what would radio want? Right. And we always, when we finally figured our shit out, would always come back to like, well, fuck it. What do we like? What do we want to hear? Like, what do we want to, you know, cause if it's not lighting you up, it's not going to light up anybody. And to be honest, at some point you're the artist. So you've got to create it for yourself. And if no one digs it, well, write another song, you know?
Just do it again, man. And it's up to other, as much as it sounds horrible, it's almost up to everybody else to come get it, kind of thing. Like that's how I kind of feel about it in a way. Like even with this podcast, I mean, it's not, you know, artistic in that way, but it is in a certain way. Like even that, it's kind of like, well, we do what we like, we'll put it out. If people watch it and listen, excellent. If they don't, it's real fun to do it though.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, you got to take your criticism, and you got to listen to. You got to listen. I don't listen to bullshit. I think you know, there are people who. Oh, did I freeze up?
You got a little freeze there.
Little glitch.
Oh, okay.
There we go. We're back. We're back.
We're good.
There are people who they're trolls, right? They hop on. You know, I've known a lot of people come from failed bands and failed careers, and they didn't have the spine to stick it out, and so they will just shit on whoever's doing well. And I don't listen to those people because they mean nothing to me. But you know what? If there's like, if you're getting feedback from people and it's kind of a consistent feedback, you know, listen, you're supposed to learn, right? Like the point of being an artist is to always get better. Like you can never be perfect. That's impossible, but you can always learn. Same with this podcast, right? I mean, 50 episodes later, like you learn some shit, curve, right?
Like it's huge. Like
we've listened to some old podcasts and kind of just cringe at what we were doing. And we've had a lot of hiccups and bumps along the way, but you know, like, you know, guys, like we said, like guys like Rick Rubin have said, like, just stop making things for other people. We're just doing it for ourselves. And that's what really is what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you do it with, if you're doing it right, you're doing it for yourself. And you're also like, you're still open and listening to like, it's okay to be tuned into what's popular and to kind of like, you know, it is commercial art. Like you cannot eat your own ambition. But you know, so there's a bit of a both and, but you got to make sure you're not being extreme either way. You don't want to, be so stuck up that you do not listen to anybody. Like I made this point earlier that, you know, you can tank your career by being an asshole and just not listening to anybody.
Yeah, sure.
On the other hand, you can tank your career by listening to everybody and never listening to yourself. So, you know, there's a middle ground. And honestly, you know, don't feel bad about your early podcast. Because when I look at that Nottingham book, I mean, I'm stoked about how well that series did. I mean, it started my comics career, but I have a hard time looking at those first pages. I was like, dude, you know, I was just trying to figure my stuff out. I mean, that cover is still like, it's become kind of iconic in indie comics. You know, a Robin Hood story with a bleeding mask ended up being a pretty good idea on my part. So I'm pretty happy with that one.
I like the that's like, as soon as I seen it, I was like, well, I'm ordering this. I have to get this. Like, just based on the art, I'm just gonna get it. But then, of course, I read the synopsis, and I was like, I'm actually gonna read it and order the entire collection, I imagine.
Yeah, and that's a part of the artist thing too, where like you look at something and you're like, oh, like you never really finished of what you always want to keep improving, right? You always want to. You wish you could do that better. You wish you could do that now, and you know, redo it now. But hey, but when I look at it, it's like, this is fucking sick, dude.
Yeah. Oh, you're way harder on yourself, and honestly, for sure.
Yeah, and it's cool to you know, it's cool to see where you've come from, and also like you know, there's always going to be joy in like listening to old songs and hearing the improvement and stuff like that. Sometimes it makes you cringe, but then also sometimes it makes you proud that you stuck it out and got better.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. So like, what is it like? So now, like 20 years later, like, what's it like going back to, like, especially the hits kind of thing, like the stuff you've played at the time a lot, and now of course you still have, you know, you still have to play the songs, you got to play the hits kind of thing. But like, how does that feel now, like 20 years later? Like, I know some people are really, you know, proud of that history or those tunes, and then some other people are like, yeah, I do them because everybody likes them, but you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, Matt, it feels amazing because nice. We played so many shit shows, we played shows to nobody. We played songs people didn't give a shit about so much in our career that when we started to hit and when we started to take off, you know, it's like, I will never complain about playing Retribution Blues. Like, nice. I'll tell you what,
fucking A.
When the first notes of that song hit and everybody freaks out in the crowd, you're like, how would I not enjoy that? You know, I understand that some artists get like, you know, if you see yourself as a one-hit wonder, or that's kind of how your career went, I could understand that it's aggravating that people only want to hear that one song, right? But it's kind of like, man, that's the tough part about commercial art. Like exactly. It's a bitter pill, but it's also like, you're getting paid to sing still. You're getting paid to play guitar. So trying to keep perspective on that is also, you know, get your head straight. It's like, you know, like Jack White has said that. He's like, you know, I want to play all my crazy like B-side stuff, but like, people came for the hits, and I'm not going to not play them for the people that have bought my stuff forever.
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of a slap in the face to your fans to shit on them and tell them that they shouldn't like the songs they like, you know.
Just listen to the new album.
Well, it's that perspective too. Like, it's that perspective that everyone kind of some people don't have. Like, I think Kurt Cobain kind of lost that perspective. You know, he didn't want to play "Smells Like Teen Spirit" anymore. But that's what made the crowd roar as well. And you gotta take that energy in. That's what keeps you moving. That's what keeps you.
Oh, for sure.
You know, that's what I would think anyway. Like, you know, I've never played in front of thousands of fans before, but I imagine that's what I would always come back to, hear that crowd just scream back at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the reaction. Like, I mean, I've played in small bands. I've never, same idea, like a couple hundred people kind of thing. Even that, from your perspective on stage, that looks nuts sometimes. Like, 200 people in a small room is amazing. Like, it's the greatest.
Dude, right? You put 50 people in a room, and they're all there listening to your stuff.
It's like, awesome,
it's like, come on, you know, it's great. And honestly, like, everybody has their own, everybody has their own shit going on inside. And you're right. Like, some people I know, just, they complain all the time. It's like, I don't know. I can't complain about being an artist. It's the best thing in the world. You know, I think people like Cobain and some people, I think, weren't ready for what it would be like when they got that big. And I think that, you know, there's a lot that goes into just being disillusioned by the whole thing. Because honestly, again, commercial art's tough. Like, a lot of it can be, you can get disillusioned with a lot of it because it, you know, the business end of it. I mean, fans can be, honestly, I can't say that it's not aggravating that they don't want to hear your new shit, because you're like, well, give it a try. You know, I mean, it's, you want to keep writing. I can understand that people get angry if, what's the classic Simpsons line when Homer is, he says, play taking care of business. And then when they start, he just screams, get to the working overtime part.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And that's
do what
and
I
that
want.
is,
You know, it's like,
yeah,
I don't ever want to
find
feel
funny
like put upon, like like I'm not your monkey dancing up here. Like we're in this together. Right. Anyway, but I digress.
But yeah, that's what I do find that part funny. Like, cause I guess I kind of feel like a middleman, cause like I've played in bands and I've done sound and I've been the audience member and I've been the fan. So it's kind of like trying to have this regard for the whole situation. It's like, well, and I'm a fan too. Generally, if I'm going to come see you, I'm a fan. So like, I do want to. I'm a person who's like opposite. I want to hear you play the weird stuff. Like, you don't even have to play the hits. If you play like the weird stuff, the stuff, even like the funny covers that are only live versions of and stuff like that, like that's the kind of stuff I like to come see. But I mean, I know what I like is not for everybody else either, right? So I do expect to see the hits. And I think, speaking of Jack White especially, he does a very good job. Especially he kind of changes up his band a little bit and does odd things or whatever. He takes, like, even White Stripes songs, I mean, that are like from essentially the beginning of his career, or even like the Upholsterer songs, like, and still plays those tunes, but spins them in a slightly, I mean, they're totally recognizable, but it spins them in a way that makes it probably a little more palatable to him even. Yes. Which I feel like is something that a band fresh. Should do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think, you know, that's part of the game, is keeping it fresh for yourself. And again, you know, this whole conversation has really turned out to be about balance, right? You're kind of like, you want to give your audience what they want. Like you want them to leave the show feeling like they got their money's worth and they had a good time. On the other hand, you don't want to be like beholden to your audience. We're like, well, we'll do anything you ask. It's like,
just put it in
we're
the comments.
artists. We're gonna do our shit. You know, so it's like it's a give and take, and just it's a balance, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because at some point, like you said, if you go one way too far, it almost feels like work. And then, like, who wants to work, right? You guys are doing what you love. You guys want to put out there what you love. You don't want to feel like you're working for someone just to please them, right?
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're kind of speaking on the human elements of all this. So we'll talk. Oh, I just want to quickly get into the AI thing, because I'm curious. I like to speak to artists about this, because this is kind of like, because I could care less about like guys who run Excel sheets or whatever losing their job. I mean, it's coming. that day was coming, regardless of how if AI came around or not. There was going to be automated things coming one way or the other. But what's your take on, like, I don't want to say do you feel threatened, but you know, does your job as an artist feel threatened, or whatever the word is by, like, because I mean, I don't know if you've seen any, like, even like the new video creators are nuts, like the things it can do. And I mean, it has no soul whatsoever, but it's crazy how visually appealing it looks, and the songs sound really good, and the artwork looks really good now. It's not like it used to be, it was jumbled nonsense or whatever, but like, what's your take on all that kind of goodness?
You know, it's kind of like, it's difficult, right? Like, I mean, it's hard to fight technology, and it's hard to fight, you know, it's kind of like, human beings are funny, because if they can do something, they're going to do it. Even if it's going to destroy shit, they will do it, right? It's kind of, it's happening. So first of all, it's like, it's just happening. So what it comes down to with an artist is like, first of all, I'd like to have a style that's un-AI-able, where it's like, try to copy my shit, you're going to have a hard time, you know? So you want to, it kind of forces artists to really lean into their shit. And what it really comes down to in the end is that, like, you could complain about it, you could fear it, all of those things. But if people want it, they're going to get it. If you're fine getting your art from a computer, you know, if you're fine, like a computer just shitting out pretty pictures with no substance, like, and I, you know, I don't want to sound bitter, but it's like, if that goes and people are fine with it, there's not a whole ton I can do, right? Except for try to stay relevant, try to stay, like, not even ahead of it, but I'm like, look, I have to treat AI in a way like I treat other artists, where it's like, except for I have zero respect for it, and I have tons of respect for other artists. But I treat it in this way where it's like, I can't worry about it. I got to do my thing. I have to put my shit out and try to be appealing to people. I want to put something out there that people connect with. And personally, it's been cool to see because a lot of fans have not put up with it, right? Like DC just fired an artist for AI covers. And,
Oh, wow.
and that is because people demanded it. And to be honest with you, I mean, companies don't give a shit. Like if a company knew they could pay 25 cents to make a comic
They definitely
and people would buy it, they would do it. They'd
Oh,
be
for
like,
sure.
great, we'll fire all the artists and all the writers and all of our editors. And if we can make money, we'll make money. Like that's
Yeah.
how corporations work. But what they found was that people, the readers didn't want that. They were pissed about it because they're like, there's a connection with art and music and comics right now specifically, because that's a lot of art is like under threat. People, I think, they like the connection, knowing that like somebody wrote that story, somebody sat down and drew that thing, and because a human's doing it, it's far more unpredictable, right? Like you're already used to kind of what AI looks like. It has a look,
Oh, yeah.
and it's sort of like people, I don't know. We're going to find out because we're in the middle of it right now. This is a bit of a rambling answer, but
No, go ahead.
Go
Ramble all you
ahead,
want.
We love it. We love
but
it.
it's a thing. Well, it's a thing that it's like humans, again, they like connection. Like we connect on like an energetic level with each other. And if you take away the human element, especially from art, I don't know, that just feels like humanity's losing some soul, right? Because it's kind of like, AI would never make a Picasso if Picasso didn't exist, because AI wouldn't think like, I'm going to do some abstract shit and challenge people's perspective on what good art is, right? Like AI is going to do what you think it wants you to do, which is like, sadly, and I hate to say this is like the music industry's done that. Comics have done that. They've forced artists to do house style to the point where you can't tell one from the other, and they've demanded that. So they were already building AI into their books in a way where they wanted it all to be cookie cutter, right? And so now you're finding out how dangerous that is, because that's the easiest stuff for AI to replicate. So I prefer that humans make art. I would love to, I want to hear what song Jack White writes next. I don't want to hear what a Jack White AI program writes in the style of Jack White. Not interested, but even for me, it's tough if like, what if I liked that AI song? Like what if I liked it? Would I not listen to it? And I mean, that's the real thing, right? So we're kind of going to find out about it, but I think right now they are finding backlash in the fact that people also like, art's an interesting one, because I'm with you. Like, I don't want to see anybody lose their jobs. I don't, I mean, shit, like I don't want to see anybody struggle and lose their job due to AI and stuff. But I mean, especially when it comes to art, you're like, there's this extra element, and I'm not just saying this 'cause I'm an artist, but it's like, that is like a human, it's something that connects humans, is like when we make art and then a fan connects with that, you're getting like, you're honestly getting some connection, like on a molecular level between human beings. And like, man, you stand in an arena surrounded by thousands of people that are feeling that same vibe. Same with when a comic book hits, it's crazy. Like, knowing like millions of people have read a book and every one of them have like had like a transcendent experience. Like, it's such a human experience, and it seems odd to take out the main part of that, which is like a human creating from, like you said, like wherever those ideas are coming in from, so yeah, it's interesting. I sometimes, I mean, I'll be dead in 50 years. So it'd be nice to come back in 1,000 and see how we're doing.
Yeah. I think that's
I don't know.
That is interesting. Cause I'm a tech person. Like, I like technology and stuff. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. I use we use ChatGPT for stuff for doing
Yep.
podcast stuff because I mean it's easy to deal with and it makes things organized and like
it's a two-man job here, so we're
trying to stretch the limits of what two people can do in types of that.
Yep.
In their
but also like I think humans have a
interesting.
bullshit meter in us
for sure.
that for sure sees when it's something is bullshit, but we also can't have AI on our podcast right now. You know what I mean?
Well, that's just it because it's
we
only
have
gonna
that
return
there is a connection there,
information
right?
too, right? Like that's the part like you were talking about. It returns information essentially. Like it compiles it in a way it can put it back together, but it's just a really fancy internet search in the real trueness of it all. Like it just goes out and looks on the internet. And it's like, oh, well, these pieces are cool and these are top searches and does it all in a split second and then pumps you out whatever that thing is. But if you look, I mean, you're saying the art, visual art is especially not super awesome all the time. It takes a lot of prompting to get anything that looks reasonably close to something a human would even do. But the songs, and the same thing with the songs, like there is, even when you hear it and you see it, there's an element missing. It just is. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and nobody can tell you technically what it is, but everybody says it. Everybody says it.
You're right, because it's kind of like, when they started using like full CGI characters, not like, if you have the Incredible Hulk, that feels real somehow because like there is no Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no reference.
You can sort of, as a human, you're like, that's not real anyways, and so I can sort of get there. But anytime they've used like a full CGI character to replicate a human, man, there is that like uncanny valley, like where you just like there's no soul behind the eyes, right? Like there's something that you're just like, I don't.
It's missing.
This thing looks human, but I don't feel its humanness.
I don't believe
it.
The movement's not exactly like it's just something always off about.
Yeah, you just don't trust it. You don't believe in it, right?
And I think it's it's like some primitive, like predator prey, I think, type of thing. It's like, well, that's not right. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can recognize another human because generally humans are nice in theory, right? And I think it's like a predator prey thing. It's like, well, there's something weird about that. It comes from the boogeyman.
It's true. And we also like, not to get deep into the spirituality of it, but every human being in the world has had the experience when you're sitting in a room and somebody's in there. Like, like your wife just walked in or your friend walked in or your husband walked in, whatever. And you turn around and there they are. You didn't hear them.
Yeah.
You just, we're however you want to see your spirituality, whatever it is, there is something else making you up than just like, the meat sack that everyone looks at.
The meat armor.
But I think personally, I think there's something in that. There's just something that like, it's beyond my understanding, honestly, but it's kind of like there's something in there that we're not recognizing when it's fully just automated and you just are like, that doesn't feel like a person. That doesn't feel, I'm not connecting. Cause again, like a great song, you connect on like, you can call it a spiritual level or whatever you want to call it, but it is like, there's something else going on. It doesn't just sound good. It's hitting me somewhere else. Right. Like
it makes you feel, it makes you feel, right? Like that's a strange thing for sounds to do. You know what I mean? In that context,
totally.
If you think of it as just sounds,
yep.
And now it makes me feel something. Yeah. As a dude with a piece of wood with some steel strapped to it with some magnets.
Yeah, can make me cry, man. What the fuck?
It's weird, right? Yeah, it's an incredible experience, right? It is super cool.
True, and so honestly, like I don't worry. Like, you hear a lot of doomsday talk, like it's the end of the human race. I'm like, well, I don't know. The sun's going to supernova in like 1 billion years. So like we're fucked anyways, unless we, we get your head together. Like we're not immortal.
Yeah, well, we're all toast at some point anyway. I mean, that's just life.
Yeah, man. But it is this thing where I'm like, if I worry about anything, is that like you're just a little worried about like the more we lose human connection. I don't know. Like, what does that mean? I don't know. Right? Like you're already kind of seeing it with social media. You see like, people only post the highlight reel of their life. It's like the filters and everything going on right now. That's a whole other conversation, but we're already kind of losing some sort of like innate human experience, right? So if you're replacing all of your art and creative ideas with computers, I mean, hey, I fear the Terminator as much as anybody, right? So, but I mean, I think that's just the thing. I don't know. Will people dig it in 100 years? Would I come back and everybody's just listening to AI music and they're all happy and fine. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of look at it.
I don't think so. I don't think they will be.
I
But
don't think so.
Whatever.
No, but there's part of me that's always like, well, the kids will be all right. I don't know. There's always that fact. I always kind of, but I guess it takes the edge off it to a certain degree as well. But like, everybody, every generation before was like, oh, the kids, the poor kids. But we all turned out fine. We thought the internet was going to melt our brains and the Simpsons was going to ruin us and all these things, but I turned out more or less okay.
Did you know that when the printing press came out, the powers that be were very worried about people reading all the time because it would make them lazy and it would make them, not go do stuff. So it's like it's same shit, different way all the time. Everybody thinks their kids are lazier than they were, and it's usually full of shit. But as long as there's a planet here for us to breathe the air and I think humans will figure it out. I think, and they've got comic books to read and music to listen to. So
I think it'll all be fine. I think it's all good. That's right. Like I say, we survived all the madness. It'll be fine. It just looks different. I think it just looks different to people. Like you got nothing to look back on when you're 10 or 12, 15, and then you get old and you're like, oh shit, that was awesome, and this isn't. That's kind of just how it goes. But
that's exactly it, man. That's the glories of getting older is that you identify with kids less and less. But then you're like, no one understood the shit I was listening. I remember listening to Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and people that are now my age being just like, this is garbage. Like 100%. What? It's so loud and so like I don't hear any melodies. I'm like, what? You don't hear? Don't you understand? Like you don't understand what Lane's trying to say? Like he's giving it. He's giving you his soul. Come on.
Yeah, 100%.
That was 100%. I know I'm off topic, but I watched the movie This Is 40 the other night, and when he puts the music, he puts on Rooster by Alice in Chains and shows it to his kids and his wife, and he's like, "Come on!" He's like, "This is fucking great," and his kids are like, "This is so bad." And then they put on some other like kind of Nicki Minaj song, and they're like, "Oh, this is great," but like that totally hit home. I'm like, that is me, and I'm turning 40 next year, and this is it, right? It's
my kids they kind of like some of it. I get those looks a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I get those.
Yeah, but you know what? Hey, I wasn't a big Beatles fan when I was a kid. Now I love the Beatles. So sometimes it just takes, they get a bit older and a bit of an appreciation for good shit, and they'll be fine.
Oh yeah, everybody wisens up sometime, right? Yeah. No, I used to claim to not be a Beatles fan either. I still sometimes don't, but they got lots of good stuff.
Dude, once you get it and you understand the time period, you're like, man, these guys.
I like what they brought.
They were something special.
Yeah, I liked listening to like all the engineers' story more so than the Beatles almost. Like I like because the fact that they were inventing their way through, like inventing multi-track recording, and they had like two producers that followed them. Like I was more like almost like, holy shit, these guys are actually the Beatles. Like the Beatles wrote the songs, but if it wasn't for these guys, they would have never been able to do this. Like, you know what I mean? That was kind of where I went with it. But
hey, man, it's a team effort. Right?
100%.
Going back to comics and everything else, like it doesn't happen without the team. You're not doing that on your own. So
that's for sure. Well, my friend, I believe this
has been a good chat.
Hey, man, appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. You've been a fucking hell of a guest.
Yeah, it's awesome. That was awesome.
Well, yeah, you get me going on art and music. Like I just, you could go have a nap. I'd still be talking when you came back. But,
we could sit here all night, but we'll let everybody get their time in.
where can everyone get in contact with you? Where can people find you? Tell us what you got going on.
Easiest ways to find me. Instagram is a big one for me. So I have Art of SCV as my art page. You can also follow Shane Connery Volk. You can get there from either. So, but the art page is like full art. It's like, it's just tons and tons of art stuff on there. So Art of SCV, Shane Connery Volk. You can go to my website, shaneconneryvolk.com. I'm on Twitter from time to time. You can probably still find me on Facebook as Shane Connery Volk. If you Google Shane Connery Volk, my shit pops up.
Nice.
But right now, Nottingham, the third volume, The Final Tithe is out. So issue 14 is on the shelves right now. Issue 15, which is the finale, it's a definitive finale. I'll tell you what, you should start reading that thing because you're going to cry your eyes out.
I'm going camping this weekend. I'm taking that with me.
Awesome. So right now you've got Nottingham Volume 1, Volume 2 of King's Ransom you can get, and then now, like I said, The Final Tithe is coming out in comic shops.
Nice. I'm
currently working on Prairie Gods, the first book, Race the Devil. It's a 5-issue series that I've written, drawn, colored. It's each issue is self-contained, so it's you pick up Race the Devil, 24 pages and it's over. So you pick it up. It's not like a long kind of arc. It's just single stories, all set in the fictional town of Broadacres. It's kind of a supernatural. Some of the stories are supernatural. There's ghosts. The devil obviously is in Race the Devil. Freddie Davis literally races the devil.
Nice.
But so I'm working on that right now, and Race the Devil comes out September 4th.
Nice.
So hit up your local comic shop, and like I said, Google me. My stuff pops up.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Check him out. Go see him when he's in your town.
Yeah, One Bad Son.
Check him out. If he comes
Absolutely.
out for a solo show,
go.
check him out there as well. Thank you again, my friend.
Can't wait to see you back in Grand Prairie, my friend.
Yes,
Friend
sir.
of the pod,
Awesome.
Shane Connery Volk, folks.
There you go.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, my friend. Thank you so much.